Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Girivardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Saha.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, all glories to Gurudeva, all glories to you.
All glories to your wonderful service to the Vaishnava community. All glories to the Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Maharaj. Good to have you once again, Maharaj.
Well, what can I do? And I need to serve. And when you say that you come and do the service, I don't have any right. I don't have any right to say no.
Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. So, Maharaj, if you wouldn't mind, then we may put the verse on the screen as you begin.
Yeah, I should. You do what?
I'll put the verse on the screen, and then you start the class.
All right, you can do that.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyatsa Tattva Jaya Mutirayat Nastapayusva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhava iti Naistike. So SRIMAD Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 41. The text goes, Nara Ovacha Makanchana Sukorajan Yad Ishwara Vasam Jagat Loka Sapalaya Syeme Loka Sapalaya Syeme Fahanti Balimishitu Sasamyu Nakti Bhutani Saeva Vinayakticha. Word for word translation, Nara Uvacha. Nara said, Ma, never. Kanchana, by all means. Suchaha, do you lament? Rajan, O king. Yat, because. Ishwara Vasam, under the control of the Supreme Lord. Jagat, world. Lokaha, all living beings. Sapalaha, including their leaders. Yasya, whose. Ime, all these. Vahanti, do bear. Balim, means of worship. Is situ, for being protected. Saha, he. Samyu, nakti, gets together. Bhutani, all living beings. Saha, he. Eva, also. Vu, nakti, disperses. Cha, and. Translation and purport by Divine Grace is confounded Acharya. Srila Bhachan Vindu Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Kija. Srila Prabhupada Kija. Sinada said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is he only who brings them together and disperses them. Purport. Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under the control of the Supreme Lord. The personality of God, beginning from Brahmaji, the leader of this universe, down to the insignificant ant, all are abiding by the order of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the constitutional position of the living being is subordination under the control of the Lord. The foolish living being, especially man, women also, artificially rebels against the Lord of the Supreme, and thus becomes chastised as an asura or lawbreaker. A living being is placed in a particular position by the order of the Supreme Lord, and is again shifted from that place by the order of the Supreme Lord or his authorized agents. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Maharaj Yudhishthira, or in modern history, Napoleon, Akbar, Alexander, Gandhi, Subhash, and Nehru are all servants of the Lord, and they are placed in and removed from their respective positions by the supreme will of the Lord. None of them is independent. Even though such men or leaders rebel so as not to recognize the supremacy of the Lord, they are put under still more rigorous laws of the material world by different mysteries. Only the foolish man, therefore, says that there is no God. Maharaj Yudhishthira was being convinced of this naked truth because he was greatly overwhelmed by the sudden departure of his old uncles and aunt. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was placed in that position according to his past deeds. He had already suffered or enjoyed the benefits accrued to him in the past. But due to his good luck, somehow or other, he had a good younger brother, Vidura, and by his instruction, he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. Ordinarily, one cannot change the cause of one's due happiness and distress by plan. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangements of Kala, or invisible time. Kala, or invisible time. There is no use trying to counteract them. The best thing is, therefore, that one should endeavor to achieve salvation. And this prerogative is given only to man, woman also, because of his developed condition of mental activities and intelligence. Only for man there are different Vedic instructions for attainment of salvation during the human form of existence. One who misuses this opportunity of advanced intelligence is verily condemned and put into different types of miseries, either in this present life or in the future. That is the way the Supreme controls everyone. Omagyana, Timirandasya, Gyana Salakaya, Saksuru Meritam, Jena Tasmai, Si Guru Vedama. Suchaitaya Manovistam, Stafitam Jena Bhutel, Swayam Rupam, Kadamayam, Dadati Swa, Padantikam. Vandasi Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda Samodatu, Godathai Puspavantu, Chita Chanda Tamona. Namo Mahabhadana, Ya Krishna Prema Padaya, Krishna, Ya Krishna Chaitanya, Naminguru Zenama. Vancha Kalpatari Byacha, Kripasunam Bya Evacha, Paditanam Pavanam Byo Vaishnavi Byo Namo. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale. Semate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itanam. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine. Nevase Sasanyavadi Pasatyadi Satari. So you're welcome to this Bhagavatam class, Bhagavatam exchanges. The text is very much relevant to our everyday reality, especially modern happenings in the material world in the 21st century. Right now, things that are happening on the planet, especially what is transpiring in Europe regarding leadership tussle and fighting and killings and all this stuff. So ordinarily speaking, you may look at the whole scenario and say, oh my God, what is this? So wars are not something, the wars or killings or death by artilleries or shells or by nuking, they're not something new. Nuking has been there in a Vedic culture. People use mantras to nuke weapons and cause heinous destructions. But the difference between the nuking of weapons by dint of mantras is that is target that you target, and the target object is the one that is aimed at. The weapon only goes there to cause its destruction. And of course, if the target is stronger, then it goes back to the one who sends the weapon. Now that's the difference. That's a great difference between the modern day weapons of destruction and their very counterpart. The weapons of modern day weapons of destruction, you cannot retract You cannot retract a shell. You cannot retract a nuclear head once it's been released. You cannot retract it. It will cause, sometimes it will even cause a destruction that you never anticipated. And you may not want to be called a war criminal, but by dint of what you have done, just to wreak havoc on a particular group of people, say during a war, you could be reckoned as a war criminal, someone who has committed war crimes, like what is going on now in Europe, precisely between Russia and Ukraine. So this tendency for usurpation it's not something new. People are talking about Russia. People are talking about Putin. It's not something new. Even the Pandavas, they suffered the same fate with the Kauravas. It was their rightful time to be able to rule, but then it became a problem. But then the good thing was that Lord Krishna was on the side. The modern was the Lord is not involved, just people trying to annex different communities to their country. And Russia is not the first one to do it. I'm sorry. So the bottom line is that wars will always be there. This is Britio Loca. This is the planet of death. So one may die through warfare. One may die on a sick bed. Some people, they go to bed and they never rise up again. One may die by a cardiac arrest. One may die by an accident. Sometimes the whole family die by accident. So the people who are still living, or the person who is left behind, has to bear the brunt with what? With lamentation and dispute. And sometimes they pass through even depressive states. So here, Nada Muni is the personification of Paraduka Duki. They most agree to see the suffering of people. So he is giving some idea to Maharaj Yudhishthira about how to stabilize his state of mind. So Narada Muni was trying to convince Yudhishthira that these things have happened. This is how everyone is under the control of the stringent laws of nature. We're trying to control the whole universe, but we are also under the control. Even a worm, a crawling worm, the worm is also an Ishvara. The worm is also controlling a leaf that has fallen down from a tree. So we tend to exhibit this Ishvara Bhav anywhere, anyhow. We want to control. And sometimes we can't control ourselves, but we want to control the whole world. And especially when people are maladjusted, that is one of the main causes of wars. You see, the Kauravas, they were terribly maladjusted. They couldn't adjust themselves to the reality of the day that it is time. It's time to be able to share power. It is time to be able to quit power. It's time to be able to give the Pandavas, they recognize the Pandavas and give them the due. They were greedy for power. So this is symptomatic of maladjustment. We want the whole world to adjust themselves to suit our purpose. We don't want to adjust ourselves to suit the purpose of the people in the world or to suit the purpose of other people around us. And we have ways to rationalize that by dint of disinformation. And that's what. So these things have been there. These things have been there for a long time. History simply goes about repeating itself. So with this information culture, we are able to convince people around us that, you know, this and this and this and this and this and that. And then, you know, we need to kill these people. Or we need to sit on the power. We need to sit on the position. We don't need to. We don't need to give the power to them. They won election, but we don't need to give the power to them. Yeah, this is supposed to be democratic regime, but why not? Why not? Power is very sweet, like honey. So this is what power does. Power intoxicates the Kauravas, and power catapults them to the abode of Yamaraj. And now, the whole people who have left, who have been kicked out from their bodies, Yudhishthira, sinless king Yudhishthira, is there to bear the brunt, and he was not feeling good about it. So this is a very good example. Sometimes some things happen to some people, and then we think that, we say, oh, he's very offensive. Yudhishthira didn't think like that. He was just generally agreed for his aunts and his uncles who have died. He didn't recognize them as enemies. And so, this is the actual baseline, the yardstick, how to recognize someone who is genuinely Krishna conscious. A genuine leader is concerned about the welfare of all. So although these people who taunted him and his brothers, they've died, but he was in a state of despair. So Narada, he came to try to show him the naked truth that, look, there is no need to lament. I mean, it's like what Krishna also told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, that is, don't lament for the living or for the dead. This is the arrangement of the Lord. But this was to Narada. I mean, this was to Yudhishthira. I mean, I remember some time ago, you know, one of my young friends asked me what to do because, you know, some of his friends had fallen into some type of catastrophe. So he was feeling he should just preach to them and tell them, oh, well, this is your karma, you know. So I said, no, this is not how to preach to someone who is passing through some difficulties. Yeah, you may know that is his karma or her karma, but you don't go to them to tell them that, well, you know what, you're suffering because you offended me, you're suffering because your karma, you know, your brother died because he offended me, your brother or sister died because she offended me. No, we don't find this type of acculturations in the community of saintly people. Otherwise, Yudhishthira is in a position to just not worry himself. But Narada has to come to be able to convince him. These are people who really like tortured him and gave him so much so much of himself and his brother, so much of her. So Prabhupada is mentioning the purport how the Lord controls everyone. By the arrangement of the Lord, everyone is under the stringent laws of nature. So, if someone even feels that they will live forever, and so they perform all types of atrocities, okay, let's see. And for how many years we're going to live on the planet? Hitler did so much, but where's Hitler now? So, the unfortunate thing is that, we find people having to suffer, and sometimes, we may not even think that, or we may even think that they are innocent victims. But, basically, no one is an innocent victim. But simply, just because we know no one is an innocent victim, does not imply that we should not be empathic. We should feel bad for the suffering of the world, suffering of people in the world. You see, Narada Muni was feeling so bad because he traveled all over the universes, and he couldn't find people chanting Krishna's glories. Narada Muni felt very bad. And so when he went to Dwarka in the spiritual world, when he went to Dwarka, this is recorded in Lochana Das Thakur's Chaitanya Mangala. So Lochana Das Thakur documented that when Narada Muni went to see Krishna at Dwarka, Krishna had just left Satyabhama's palace and had come to Rukmini's palace. Rukmini had made so much of preparation to be able to receive the Lord. And so Krishna was there at Rukmini's palace, being attended to by Rukmini, and here comes Narada. But Krishna looks at the facial expression of Narada, and he was not feeling good. We say the face is the index of the mind. So Narada was really not feeling comfortable with what was going on in the material world, because he had traveled around and he couldn't find people glorifying the Lord. So he felt a little bit uncomfortable. He felt worried. And so when Krishna asked him, "Yeah, what's the problem? What's going on? You don't feel happy." Now explain to him that the people in Kali Yuga, people are so much absorbed in their egocentric tendencies. They're so much involved in trying to control other people. There's so much involved in self gratification. There's so much involved in trying to rule the whole world without really ruling their own sense of mortalities. And so this was causing another pains. And so he said, "Krishna, you have to help to do something. You have to appear yourself to be able to disperse this cloud of ignorance that has been looming menacingly on the global arena, and it's affecting the people." And so Krishna accepted Narada's suggestion. Of course, even before Narada came, Rukmini had told Krishna about the need for Krishna to be able to have the lived experience of the love that the devotees have for him, how they feel, the intensity of that love, the emotion, the bhav. So Rukmini suggested, I think I was mentioning this in yesterday's class in Manipur here, And Rukmini suggested to him that he has to take some responsibility to be able to save the world. He has to be able to save his devotees, because his devotees, they cared for him, they love him so much, but it seems that he's not had that deep experience. For instance, Radha's Bhav. Even Krishna, when he was after enacting all those pastimes, he was reflecting, he was thinking how Radha was so much into him, and the intensity of the love, her emotions. He couldn't just imagine. So he wanted to also have that type of experience. So anyway, when Rukmini suggested to him that what he needed to do, and Nada also came to mention almost the same thing. In fact, with Narada, Krishna showed his form of his Guranga form. That was the first time that the Supreme Lord showed the Guranga form to anyone. That was to Narada. He said, "This is the form I'm going to appear in the material world to dissipate this darkness of ignorance, this lack of Krishna consciousness. This is the form I'm going to take to be able to spread the mission of spreading love of God." So the pure devotees are very concerned about our suffering. Narada Muni was very concerned about the melancholy that Yudhishthira had fallen into. And so he was providing some panacea, philosophical panacea, on how to transcend this challenge that Yudhishthira was facing. Sometimes, people have depressive feelings and they have to go to see a therapist and all these things. But Narada is the best of therapists, and he comes to give some philosophical, present some philosophical treatise that is tinged, intertwined with love and care. And Yudhishthira got awakened from his despair. So the understanding is that we are being controlled. We try to control so much, but we are all under the control of the supreme controller. So Prabhupada mentioned in the purport here that we humans, we don't like to follow the laws enacted or stipulated in the scriptures. Other species of life, they naturally follow the letter. But we human beings, with our little independence and our high intelligence, we tend to abuse the high intelligence that we've been given. We tend to abuse our independence. And we want to become lawbreakers. I want to become lawbreakers, especially those in high profile positions. Then, something happens that we may not like. We put into some anxiety. So Prabhupada also gives a vivid example of leaders in the material world. He gave the example of Napoleon. In modern history, he said Napoleon, Akbar, Alexander, Gandhi, Subhash, and Nehru. These are all servants of the Lord. In fact, everyone is a servant. Is actually dasa anudas, a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. But this understanding, this knowledge, this practical knowledge in service has eluded us for a long time. So we become involved instead of serving the Lord, we become involved in serving our sensory modalities in the mind. And so we get entangled. And by dint of the stringent laws of nature, we get conditioned to this material world. So someone becomes the head of state, president of the country, and then the next time you hear he's been killed, he's been assassinated, or he has been removed, or something happened. So we have assets, spiritual assets, material assets. But when we use up those assets, then we have to build up another set of assets to be able to get a job, so to say, get a high-profile job. So the material world, in a nutshell, is not a very good place because we are susceptible to making mistakes. They say there's this common saying that to err is human. They're susceptible to making mistakes, and because also we have independence, our independence is sometimes abused, and we go against the laws. We become lawbreakers. We become, criminals. So the Vedic injunctions, the Vedic instructions are there for us to be able to follow, so that we can reinstate ourselves in the loving service of the Lord. In fact, there are two options, two objectives of our existence. One is to serve the Lord, or the other is to serve Maya. So we have a choice. When we choose to serve the Lord, then we have that hope of a progressive upliftment. But if we choose the wrong path, then there is all types of challenges that we could experience even in a high-profile position. So imagine you're the president of a very powerful country like Russia, and here the whole world is against you. Practically, almost the whole world is against you, and you're just full of anxiety. So the bottom line is that for the leaders of the world to be able to lead a big congregation of people, they first have to lead themselves. And in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami mentions this it gives an idea, it provides some framework about this self-leadership. The people who are not able to lead themselves, they should not try to become leaders, because they just cause chaos. They are motivated by greed, by lust, by anger, and by vengeance. So that is the way that we misuse the opportunity of the high intelligence endowed on us as humans. It's so tempting, especially when you're in a very big position. Now, even if you're not in a big position, I've seen cases where people, even ordinary security guards, they tend to, to be offensive to everybody around because they want to exercise their power of control. So, the idea is that when we experience miseries, we should also accept it very faithfully. Because nothing happens by chance. And we should know that especially when we become involved in the devotional service, the Lord is basically in control. And so if we have that confidence, then we don't really need to worry so much. We simply go about with the execution of our services and, depend on the mercy of the Lord. Now the difference is, people in general, even the Kauravas, they were not dependent on the mercy of the Lord. They were dependent on their power. So power is very intoxicating. And it's so easy for people to have the Dhritarashtra mindset or the Duryodhana mindset. So if we have that understanding and in practice try to perceive the control, the controllership of the Lord in every realm, then we could have some restraint in trying to put things in order based on what has been laid down, in the scriptures. But so the difficulty is that the modern day rulers, they don't follow any scriptures. So the Lord arranges for partial destructions to transpire just to be able to create a change. And we hear about tsunamis and earthquakes and wars and all this type of stuff. One may question, if there's a supreme Lord and if he's all powerful, why all these bad things are happening in the world? Good question, good query. But then the same people never try to figure out whether there are instructions in the manual that we need to follow in the cosmic machine. Every machine has a manual. Every machine has a manual. So the cosmic machine, we tend to ignore the instructions in the manual. Or sometimes we deny that there is no manual. We have to create our own ways. Modern man wants to create their own ways of how to control the world. And so there are all these wars, and so many people are suffering, so many people are dying. I remember someone was telling me in India here how one of the Indian reporters at the Ukraine-Russian war in Ukraine. So one of the Indian reporters reported that one of the soldiers, he chanted Hare Krishna. He has his bead bag around his neck, and he said that in the night there's a little bit of chance, so he chants. So you see how things can turn, how a community or environment can turn topsy-turvy the very next moment. Who anticipated that Russia will come and wreak havoc on Ukraine? Of course, they did something funny also in 2014, but this is on a very grand scale. Now, the United Nations Court has generated some ruling that what they're doing was improper. But when people are intoxicated by power, sometimes they don't care about, even when the whole world is on one side, they don't care. They're ready to kill. They're ready to die. The funny thing is, they don't go to the war front. They stay in cozy offices drinking tea. You think that any member of Putin's family is in the Russian army? No. His children even didn't school in Russia. So, the bottom line is that This is material world, and any step you take could lead to danger, could lead us to danger. And so the preparation should be that we begin to have a better sense of belonging and a better sense of understanding that everything in this material world is very temporary, and exercise some restraint in how we want everyone to be subjugated. We want some countries to be under our domain because I have the nuclear power. As we may decry Putin about what he's doing, but we have so many small Putins on the planet. People who are subjugating others just because they have small, teeny power. Yeah, so we have small Putins on the planet. But even Putin is being controlled by the supreme controller. And the devotees are playing a very nice role. They're distributing free food. I mean, in Ukraine, I think even in some Russians also, the Russian devotees also, they're involved in distributing free food. But basically, in Ukraine, they are helping with food distribution. Of course, you see, this is good to be involved in trying to help out war-torn areas. At least those who are eligible, of course, in Ukraine, the government, there's a law that the men from age 18 to whether 60 or so, they are not allowed to, they're encouraged to join the army to go and fight. But if even there is no law, every intelligent person should just think that if your country is being invaded and you're living there, why sit down to be a civilian that someone comes to push you around? Everybody will die anyway. One day, and one person will die, another person will die, all of us will die. So why wait to suffer for so long? So at least encouraging people to go and become involved in defending the country, that's good enough. The only problem is that these wars are man-made. People want to annex one county, one country to themselves, to their country. Or we want to expand our powers, our territorial powers. So the bottom line, what I'm saying in essence is that we have small Putins on the planet. We can't just point accusing fingers of Putin, just one single Putin in Russia, and say all type of ills against him. We have that Putin in us. Anyway, so now the moon is very concerned about the desperation of, or the despair that Yudhishthira is passing through, and he was there to be able to help. The devotee should be there to help. Why? Because the devotee is most aggrieved to see the suffering of others. He bears the brunt of the suffering of others. He bears the emotional brunt of the suffering of others. At the same time, if even we help or we don't help, ultimately the Lord is in control, and He arranges for each and every one to get their due. When they are ripe to be removed from their office, they get them removed. When they are ripe, when the person is ripe to be sent to Yamaraj's abode, Yamaloka. They sent. This is what is happening. And sometimes people become the president of the country, and they think that they will never die, or they think that they will be there forever, and so they enact all type of rules and all these things to perpetuate themselves in power, and they want to see that their so-called enemies are exterminated. But the concept of this is fine, this is good, and this is bad. This is, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, is simply mental concoction. So we have an objective of being humans, and that is to follow the laws of the scriptures. The laws of the scriptures may be very tough, but when we beg for the mercy of the Lord, especially right now, Lord Chaitanya's appearance is tomorrow in India, and if we beg the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he will kindly help to empower us to be able to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna himself and the acharyas, so that the negative effects of being in this material world in terms of the bad experiences may not be so intense. Anyway, are there some comments or some questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Dear devotees, if anyone has a question, you can indicate that by raising your hand or using the hand emoji. Maharaj, I have a question from the...
Feel free.
Okay, I have a question from the... actually, two questions. One from the text itself, and
okay,
another one from the verse. But the text itself, let me see if we can share here.
Okay.
Okay, this is Narada speaking. O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is he only who breaks them together and disperses them. Now, Narada Muni is a Mahajan. And for Narada Muni to tell Yudhishthira that he should not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord, in the face of when Maharaj Yudhishthira was in this calamity or despair, looking for his two uncles, he can't find them. He's looking for his aunt, he cannot find her. And Narada Muni, who is a Mahajan, and like you said in your lecture, that one amazing quality of a devotee is that he is Patitana Pavana. He is more concerned about other people's bad conditions, even if it is their own fault. I am thinking that Narada Muni, even though is speaking the truth, but I think the timing was wrong. What do you think about it?
You think that what is wrong?
The timing of what Narada Muni was saying was wrong, because Maharaj Yudhishthira is in despair. And there was a time Giriraj Maharaj gave class on our platform here, and one Mataji was telling Maharaj that there was one young girl who was very actively distributing books when they had Rathayatra festival. And within a week or two later, she died. And so the mother was telling the devotees, and so Maharaj, to be short, Maharaj's answer to this Mataji was that the devotees should try and give her comfort, and everybody should stay away from preaching. Do not preach to this woman who has just lost her daughter about the nature of the soul, because that is not the right time. So what I'm asking is, was it appropriate or was it really right time for Narada Muni to tell Maharaj Yudhishthira what he just said, that do not lament? Whatever happens.
Yes, it is. It was the right time. Now Narada Muni, like you rightly mentioned, is a Mahajan. Who is Maharaj Yudhishthira? This is Lord Krishna's associate. So he's able to absorb whatever shock you give to him. It's like a car, a new car that has a very high-rated shock absorber. Now the person who is a book distributor died, and the parent may not be herself a very staunch devotee. I mean, you can't go and start preaching to them, but you need to empathize with them. So they are different things. And Krishna also, look at what Krishna told Arjuna even in the Gita. He's done similar thing, that don't lament for the dead or for the living. So why? Because they simply change their bodies and for a higher purpose. And so here the point is that Yudhishthira is not an ordinary being. He is an associate of Lord Krishna. So he's been coming with Lord Krishna to enact during his pastime. And so he's not an ordinary person that we have to say, well, don't preach to him. And Narada Muni had to give him the hard knock so that he can move on and govern the people or lead the people, reposition himself and lead the people to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are completely different scenarios. Completely different scenarios. If this is a nice point you raised, Saha, that if something happens, I mean, it's like the incident I mentioned. One of my friends, his friend was in catastrophe, experienced some catastrophe, and he told me, he was asking me what he intended to go and do to preach to him that this is your karma and all those type of things. So I said, no, we don't do like that, because this is somebody that is not even a devotee, and you have some little bit of higher knowledge, and so you don't go and tell the person. What you could do is to empathize with the person, and in that way they feel love, they feel they have a better sense of belonging. I mean, it's like something happens. Okay, what is happening in Ukraine? And you go and speak in the public that, this war is your karma. You are a destructive preacher. So Prabhupada always mentioned this word, and the problem is that we like to repeat words like a parrot. I call it parrotology. We like to be parrotologists, but we neglect also Prabhupada's point of Desakala Patra. According to place, time, and circumstance. We have to preach according to place, time, and circumstance. Now, the circumstance here is that Yudhishthira, he is Krishna's associate. You can tell him anything, he will absorb it. So Nara came to expedite the process of him taking the reins of power to lead the people to move forward. It's a different scenario. Again, when Nara went to meet Krishna in Dwarka, at Rukmini's palace, and he was feeling despondent, and Krishna could sense that something was wrong with Nara. So he asked what was the problem, and openly he expressed himself before Krishna. How the people in the material world, they are completely adamant to devotional service, and he enjoined Krishna to come and do the preaching himself, to change the people, because he's not able to make it. So he didn't mix words with Krishna. Krishna is not a small boy. It's not a condition soul. She just told him plain, So the bottom line is that Yudhishthira is not an ordinary person, so he doesn't need to be pampered. by Narada. Narada just has to tell him straight away that he just has to remind him straight away about the whole scenario of what is transpiring, and he has to move. He has to move on. So does it make some sense?
Very much it does. Thank you so much for the explanation. I mean, I asked this question because, and I like really much when you use the word paratologists, you know. Some of us just repeat what we read from the scriptures without considering the time, place, circumstance. And so I'm sure you are aware that some time ago, I hope it's no more happening, when a devotee falls sick, senior devotees will be telling this devotee, oh, it's your karma. You are lucky, you are fortunate, you're killing all your sinful karmic reactions and do not take care of the physical needs of the devotees. I hope that is not the case, but thank you for the explanation, because different devotees, you can tell them different things, because you know who can absorb whatever you're telling them or not. For me, I do not have shock absorbers at all, not even a weak one. I don't have shock absorbers. So when somebody gives me a shocking thing, a shocking message, that might kill me, but that might be okay for somebody like Kavi Kanapuru Prabhu, you know. So thank you so much for the clarification. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions?
I think there is a question in the chat room from Anadi Niranam Prabhu.
What?
Anadi Niranam.
Okay.
Formerly Bhakta George. No, he's an initiated disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Charadishna Maharaj. So his question is, I beg to offer my humble obeisance on Theolotus Feet Gurudev. Based on the text, can we then say there is nothing bad at all in this material world? Because the text says whatever happens is by Krishna's arrangement. Krishna brings things together and Krishna disperses. So that's his question.
Oh, yeah. Basically, we can't say there is anything bad, because we cannot also say there is anything good. The Chaitanya Charitamrita says, "Bada bada vasukya nahika prakriti." The concept of this is bad, this is good, is our mental concoction based on our assessment, based on our perception, and our perception is material. Material means based on, body game, and so. This woman is a beautiful woman. This man is a handsome man. He's attractive. She's attractive. Yeah. So these are how we operate in this material world. Our perceptions, material perceptions. And so the scriptures rule against judging things based on our perception. And therefore, it is stipulated here that everything is under the control of the Lord. But you see, the point is also that we don't go and preach to somebody, like now that is talking to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Someone lost their child, and then you go to tell the person that, everything is controlled by the Lord, you should be happy. Because what they will perceive us to be is that we are heartless. You see, in Mayapur, several years ago when Prabhupada was on the planet, Prabhupada was sick in Mayapur, very sick. And then one of his devotees from America, when Prabhupada heard that devotee was sick, Prabhupada he left his own problem and took responsibility, asking someone to take him to the hospital, asking someone to do this for that devotee, someone to do this and someone to do that. So he could have just done everything and said, well, it's money. When we want to run away from responsibilities, we tend to preach philosophy. But we should look at what the acharyas have done. For their own problems, they don't really care. But for the problems of those around them, they're very desperate, they're very eager to see that they intervene. What makes great leaders is personal intervention of other people's issues. Not that, we are satiated or satisfied with what we have. I have money, I have bank balance, I have cars, I have houses, and so I don't care. But no. The point is that pure devotee is after the welfare of others. And so even they are ready to be able to sacrifice their own inconvenience, but to sacrifice their own convenience to be able to intervene, to create a positive change in the life of others. Whether the person is facing some heavy challenges, whether it is financial, money, social, or whatever, they don't just keep their mouth sealed or cross their hands or cross their legs. They are ready to be able to facilitate a positive change. And so we should learn from this acharyas, especially when our devotees are facing some challenges. We should seek out ways to how to help them. Not otherwise, not thinking when are they going to die, because it's just giving us so much trouble.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Sri Kavikanapur, please unmute.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Hey, Dandavad.
Maharaj, please pray for us from Mayapur. Happy Guru Purnima in advance.
Happy Guru Purnima to you and everyone there in Africa, in West Africa.
Thank you, Maharaj. So, Maharaj, I really appreciate your lecture today. It's full of, kind of compassion. Now to move on with our preaching in Africa, which is very important to us. In the course of the lecture, you mentioned about that we want everybody to change to accept us, but we don't want to change to us to fit in the society. There's a way you put it, Maharaj, which is very important, and then this showed that we are really thinking on how to really bring all calibers of people on board so that we can move on. Because that's what Prabhupada did, and he became successful. So how can we in Africa, or in West Africa especially, how can we develop such a genuine compassion on how to think in a way that we can, adjust in a way that we can bring all the conditions to Krishna? Because unless we really think very deep and develop this compassion, I don't think there is a way out, because especially in Africa here, in West Africa especially, people are suffering. And it's a ripe time for them to hear about Krishna consciousness, but in a compassionate way. But we are not so compassionate like that. We are not ready to present it to them in the way they will accept it, because people are suffering in all corners. And that is a symptom that they are ready to accept Krishna consciousness. When people are suffering, they can really understand, connect with Krishna consciousness. But we are not compassionate enough to think in a way to present it to them. So it's really disturbing. So Maharaj, how can we cultivate this genuine compassion so that we can give them this Krishna consciousness? Because it's the right time. Everybody is suffering in Africa here, especially in Nigeria. Everything is skyrocketed. The fuel, everything, food. We are in Nigeria here, so we know what is going on. So this is the right time, to really give people Krishna consciousness. So Maharaj, please, I don't know, you can help us to throw more light on this. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, so here is the deal. I want to mention that I think that the devotees in West Africa, you are really considering the economic situation in that part of the world. you're really, trying, you're doing a great deal in terms of, for instance, you're going to the grassroots, distributing food to the poor, to the needy. So sometimes I remember someone was interviewing Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Swami Maharaj, on a TV program in the US, and at that time he was, he was reflecting, the interviewer was reflecting on his profile in terms of the chairman of this urban spiritual development. So he was asking, so what have you got to offer to the downtrodden, to the downtrodden, the guy on the street? So he mentioned about how in their restaurant, there are particular days that they give free food to anybody who comes. And what you are doing there in terms of this Food for Life program is what fits into the down, to actually taking care of the downtrodden. It's so easy for people to say they're preaching to high profile people, but what about the downtrodden? So when you go from the bottom up, that gives you a better leverage in terms of creating consolidation for a future sustainability. And so what you're doing is one of the successful avenues of trying to establish a movement like ours in terms of to the local people, because you're feeding the local people and you're being recognized. You see, what could happen is that when you have to do this type of things, get the press to be able to cover it, so that you get some type of visibility in the public, because what these devotees have been doing, and if they are taken into consideration in terms of public coverage or media coverage, we would have been much more popular, especially in West Africa, than where we are now, because we preach without really, expecting some pat on the back, but our programs in West Africa, for instance, especially like Food for Life, could have been a program that is being sponsored by the government every here and then. But because we don't really strategize to be able to make that, we have someone, like when Bali Prabhu was there, he was doing all these things, but we don't think broadly that Krishna can withdraw anybody from the planet. And so we tend to depend on just a single source, a single person who is helping at a particular time. And then, we just depend on that person, and then we rest on our oars. And, when, something accidental or what is unexpected happens, and that could strike us heavily. And so what basically we need to do is our programs, we should think about sustainability of our programs. Our projects, we have good intentions, but in most cases, the planning has not been strategic. Because also I don't blame the devotees, because especially in West Africa, there, the quality of our services based on the quality of people we have, it's a little bit of a standard that could have been sustained, but then we don't have that type of strategic plan. And sometimes the persons who are involved in the project, they are not able to also involve other people who have the skills in that area, who are endowed with strategies to be able to create some situation that could be sustainable. And so what we need to do is that of collective development. You see, we should think broadly, or we should think globally. Back to Swami Maharaj used to say it. We should think globally, but we should act locally. You see, we can't really be compassionate to people outside there when we are not compassionate to our devotees amongst ourselves and those who are around us. It will be like a pretext. So when we create so much of we create so much of enmity among ourselves, and we say we're being compassionate to people outside, that's a joke, a big joke. So we have to identify this very challenge in our communities. Now, how many of the leaders are able to even communicate with each other? How many of them are able to talk with each other? We have so much of barriers. And so that is transmitted to the bedrock, and the people who are coming, they follow that again. They follow up with those type of energies, and it doesn't really help to sustain whatever project that we are embarking on. So yes, compassion is good, but we should start the compassion from home. If someone is having a household, we should think that, look, my wife and my kids, or my spouse, my husband and my kids, they are part and parcel of Krishna. How shall I be compassionate to them? If the compassion is overflowing in the family, then it can spill into the community. Okay, I can't say, look, I'm a very good preacher, and then I have a wife. I speak very nicely on Sunday feast on the pulpit, and then I go back to my apartment. Then I start throwing blows onto my wife's face, and that's been happening there. I remember in one country where one time I came to Africa. I remember in one country, I was so upset that I said, if any man beats up their wife, they should tell me. I will take the responsibility. I will get the person arrested. So we're talking about we're preaching about compassion, but we are not able to transmit that compassion to a great extent, to a great coverage. That is because we're not transmitting that compassion. We are not infiltrating our families with that compassion, in a nutshell. So we should, practice the compassion with our family members first. It is a family that is full of compassion, that is full of love, that produces children who are overflowing with love and compassion. So, if we want to really sustain what we need to do or what we are doing, we should be more practical. We should break all these barriers of enmities in our communities. How many people you don't talk to? You should ask yourself, how many people do I not talk to because I consider them to be my enemy? Yeah, I remember when I first came to New Jersey. So one devotee used like 2 hours to educate me about a particular devotee. Yeah, that devotee was very raw, but he was educating me not to allow him to come close to me and not to communicate with him because he's a very bad person. So I just thought, come on, what is this? I'm going to live with this person in this temple, and I shouldn't allow him to come close to me. I have to adjust myself. This is what I mentioned earlier in the talk. Maladjustment. We are not able to adjust ourselves to fit the purpose of others. We want the whole world to adjust themselves to fit our purpose. The same thing applies in the family. That's why there's so much of abuses in the families. See, in America, if you tell a child, shut up there, the child will calmly ask you, Dad or Mom, that's why you're yelling at me? Because they're going to call the police for you, and you go to jail. Then the parent will retrace their emotion and say, oh, no. So, are we able to see everybody as part and parcel of Krishna? Or because we're thinking, well, I am the breadwinner, so I am in control, and whatever I say. See, even Krishna listened to Rukmini. Rukmini suggested to Krishna what he needed to do, and Krishna accepted. It's there. It's written. It's documented by Lochan Das Thakur in the Chaitanya Mangala. We tend to think that once we are temple commander, we are temple president, we are this, we are that, we are above we are above all rules. And not to speak about the woman. And it's not only there. It's not only there in Africa. It's a general problem. In research, when you're researching a particular topic, you have to show also the general problem regarding your research topic and the specific problem. The specific problem is what you have to deal with. So this very issue, the lack of compassion, is a general problem. And it's rooted in Ishvara Bhav. We want to control. We want to suppress people. We want to control people. We're not able to control our emotions. I mean, it's like Putin. That's why I said there are so many small Putins on the planet. We're pointing accusing fingers to one Putin in Russia, but we have the Putin in us. That a Putin Bava, we have it. And so, back to your inquiry, Kavikana, yeah, we have to see how they say East or West, home is the best. Our growth, in America, they say we have to grow up. We have to grow up. It should begin with, showing the compassion in our communities. And it's not that, this is my friend, and this is my brother, and this is my child, and all those things. But we should be equally disposed. We should not be biased, in short. Our compassion, we sometimes show some bias in our attitudes, in our values, in our communication, in our dealings in our community. Just because I'm a Swami means that, I know everything. I don't know everything. Even educationally, my specialty is a PhD in applied management and decision sciences. I'm not a gynecologist. I'm not an endocrinologist. I'm not a nurse. I'm a management scientist. And so I should understand my limitations and be ready to be dependent on others. So we have a problem. We think that once we've been in the movement for 3 or 6 months, I don't want to speak of 50 years, 30 years, we know everything. So we have to adjust ourselves because this is hurting us. It's hurting our growth. There are so many infrastructures there, so many facilities in West Africa. We don't have restrictions even in terms of your preaching. You can dress even on dhoti and go to anywhere. I remember when I was going to preach at the Catholic monastery, talking to those reverend fathers, the old school, I put on, just normal devotional clothes. There's so much of opportunity for preaching there, but people are complaining there is no opportunity for preaching. There is so much opportunities for preaching. You can go anywhere and preach. So we have, in fact, opportunities for preaching is everywhere. It's not a question of. I feel bitter when people. I remember one time I went to New Vrindavan, and somebody. Okay, I think that was in that was in India, and a proper disciple, one of the gurus, ISKCON gurus, was giving a class and was mentioning that preaching is very difficult in America. No, preaching is not difficult in America. If you have the skills, and if you don't have the skills, just carry a midanga and karatal and go to the streets and do harina. People follow you. So, yeah, so bottom line is that we should exhibit it, we should show the compassion to people around us first. I can give you a formula. You speak to your wife, speak to your spouse and your kids when they are happy, and you find out from them, you ask them, what is it that I'm doing in this house that you don't feel comfortable, that you think I should adjust to be able to make the family a better, loving, compassionate family? I remember somebody had met me in India, and I gave him this formula, and then he was asking for a better relationship in the family. I gave him this formula, and you know what he said? He said, Maharaj, if I ask my wife this, she's going to bring a whole long list. I said, I'm sorry, you come to meet the wrong person for your questions. Yeah, so we have opportunities. In fact, there are opportunities for preaching everywhere. Even your Food for Life, if it's well planned, government can take over that responsibility. Even local government or state government or even federal government can take responsibility. But we don't plan things properly. There are no strategic plans. We're satisfied with the immediate results. That's it. So, Kavikanapura, we need some immediate overflow of compassion in the family first.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Like you rightly mentioned, the strategy is not right, because in Buhari administration, is part of their agenda. They are feeding school children. So we don't even know how to key into that system. So you are right. You are right.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maharaj.
All right.
I believe Varha Prabhu is here. He's doing so much Food for Life every day.
Yeah.
Maybe he can try and get the media people involved, like Maharaj you suggested, and that will travel far and wide. And who knows, somebody can step in to assist. So thank you. Shri Harichakra Prabhu, please unmute and ask your question.
Who?
Harichakra.
Oh, Harichakra is here? It's late there or in the morning in Gitanagar.
It's 12. It's like 12:30 noon.
It's a big austerity boy.
Yeah, he's working, but he still calls.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I'm not seeing your face. This is impersonalism.
No, Maharaj.
He's at work.
Okay, I'll show my face temporarily.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, Maharaj, my question is, the questions they've asked and the answer you give, it answered part of my question. But I still want to ask this because I was just talking to somebody and the person says he's an atheist. So I was trying to try to reason with him some basic things. And the question he keeps asking is that, look, my friend, if I want to do business and I see someone who is a businessman and I approach the person, I practically see how the person is enjoying the fruits of his activity, the fruits of his work, labor. And so I have full trust in the person. And then if the person gives me guidelines, as long as I follow that guidelines, I know definitely that something is going to manifest here. But all religious groups that I have dialogue with, all they say is that, you have to deny yourself of everything here, and in the future, when you go to heaven or when you go to the spiritual world, you go and enjoy. And because of that reason, that is why he doesn't even want to practice religion. I mean, if we are able to convince him that even here on earth, if he actually worship God and do whatever he needs to do, if he's going to enjoy here, start enjoying here, then he will think about it. But for you to tell him, so when he told me, I said, well, my friend, yeah, we have people who actually begin to enjoy from here. And he kept asking me, are you enjoying from here? Are you enjoying from here? That they tell you, people, the scripture always tells you, deny yourself of this thing, deny yourself of this enjoyment, and in the future, when you die, then you go to heaven or you go to the spiritual world and you go and enjoy. He told me, Frank, he said, I will not buy into that unless you are able to convince me that when I start practicing, giving myself, I'm going to start the enjoyment from here. Otherwise, no. So I want you to give me a little, insight about.
That's a very serious encounter, you know.
Yogi is with me. He says,
hey, Baba Yogi. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, we have a problem. We have a problem with problem solving. We don't really have we don't have many people who are skilled in presenting the philosophy as a means of problem solving. I mean, it's like when you want to conduct research, the question is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Okay, if you're preaching or you're talking about a particular topic, what is the problem you're trying to solve? People want to see the problems that they have. Are you able to address it? I remember in Chicago some years ago when Prabhupada was on planet, a police officer had accosted Prabhupada. What can your movement do to reduce crime? Prabhupada said that if people chant, then crime will be depleted, will be reduced. Now, based on that very statement of Prabhupada, I was inspired to conduct a research to be able to prove that point scientifically, so that if I'm speaking to somebody that, yeah, the Vedic tradition or the International Society for Krishna Consciousness also provides solution to crimes. In other words, we have a panacea to crime, or we have ways of presenting issues that will help to minimize crime. So I conducted the research, and that research was based on simply chanting Hare Krishna to reduce or to prevent crime. And specifically, the crime in question is financial fraud. Now, the whole world, if you check the statistics, there is so much of loss globally in billions of dollars every year due to financial fraud. So I conducted the research, and I had the research presented at the World Academy of Science last year in June in London. And this very presentation was even given an award, the Best Presentation Award. And then they published that research in one of their, international journal of mechanical and industrial engineering. And you know what? I spoke their language. I spoke the language of the scientists. Instead of simply preaching the concept as a religion, the topic I use a team does sonic therapeutic intervention for preventing financial fraud. A phenomenological study. And now, what attracted the scientists is that this is like a very strange topic, and the scientists, they like strange things. A number of them they don't believe in religion, but then they like strange things. And so what I did basically was using the very concept, our basic ideas, and presenting them in a scientific way and conducting epidemiological research, and they grabbed it very quickly. So my point here is that, yeah, people are suffering. That person who was confronting you, who was revealing his mindset, yeah, he wants to have a change, a positive change in his life, but he doesn't want to follow rules. Yes, some people, we don't like to follow rules. That's what Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that man, we like to break the laws of God. We don't like to follow rules. Although we are endowed with higher intelligence, we don't like to follow rules, and we create complications. There are people who are so conditioned that they prefer to create complications in their lives by not following rules and regulations of the scriptures. And so if you go and tell them, about, no meat eating, no this, no that, no illicit sex, no this, you're just driving them away. You're just telling them, get out from here, get out from here. So the idea is to be able to present our philosophy in a way that suits people based on your problem. And now, if you have to preach and you don't have that type of scientific value, it is very difficult to preach to everybody, because generally people see us as religious people. But the point is also that we are a scientific organization. Even Lord Chaitanya inaugurated the Sankirtan movement based on science, the science of synergy. Congregational chanting is the science of synergy. Synergy basically brings to bear that when two or more people are involved in doing something, the result is always greater than the individuals doing that same thing and bringing the results of those individuals together. So Lord Chaitanya could have said, people should just lock up themselves in their rooms and then chant 208 rounds, or 300 rounds, or 32 rounds, or whatever. But he said, come together and chant the holy names. That helps to dissipate the negative fog that looms on the horizon of the global society that we are living in, and it helps to dissipate this negative energy to be able to facilitate the positive change of our communities and society. And some researches have been conducted, even quantitatively, in this regard. I remember in the early 20th century, there was some research that was conducted at Washington, D.C., not by devotees, but by some impersonal school, but it's also to do with the chanting, how the chanting reduces crime. And so, if the person wants to be happy, or he wants to enjoy life, what is enjoyment? They want to be happy, and basically they don't want to be depressed. So we have also procedures of what they needed to do to be happy. And if they are coming as atheists, then we should approach them very scientifically. Not everyone is going to be able to do that. And so that's why we needed, I've been talking this all the while, we needed our children, the next generation, we needed our children to become well equipped with scientific values, higher profiles, higher educational profile, so that this type of people could be helped out. Because all that we are doing right now is presenting Krishna consciousness purely as a religion. And so some people who are not so much who do not have so much of high pious credit, they can't identify with religion. They may say they are, like this guy you're talking about, they may say they are atheists. And so these people, they need some scientific approach to their problems. And if we can do that, then basically we can win such hearts. But if somebody is coming and is openly asserting that they don't want to be regulated, they don't want to live a regulated life, there are other people, we should not also worry ourselves with that. If somebody meets me like that, I will happily engage a person in discussions and scientifically, and I can win that person over by not talking anything about religion. I'll present the philosophy purely in a scientific way and show him evidences of our own published works with the World Academy of Science, how even the world of science, they have accepted the idea that the Christian consciousness movement is helping to change the world in a positive way. So if we are part of that world, then we could also become transformed. So yeah, it could be very difficult for the normal devotee to be able to address such the issues of church people. But yeah, he could be helped by a special means of a preaching approach, but not basically on religion, because he is rejected religion. So I hope that helps to some degree.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are two hands up. We'll have to try to round it up so that Maharaj can take rest. It's quite late his time. So Salika Prabhu, you may unmute. Salika. Yes, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances of Bishop Prabhupada. Always a good day. Thank you very much for these wonderful, beautiful classes with so many wonderful references. It's very heartwarming. Maharaj, I wanted to ask a question in relation to the text that we're reading today. Based on the instructions of Nagmani to Maharaj Yudhishthira. And it's basically, I want to ask a question on how one deals with a toxic and with no sense of trying to degrade, because everyone is a devotee. But specifically, my question is directed to a toxic devotee. A devotee is not supposed to be toxic, and that's why I'm a little bit reluctant using that word. But someone is a toxic, but he is by nature, by practice, or by association, he associates with devotee family, or as gathering, is chants externally. No one can evaluate the internal relationship, but externally it chants, it goes to the temple, it does activities, but by his activities in relations to others is very toxic. I'm confronted with a situation like that recently, and I was asked to counsel. So, looking at this verse, I was just wanting to hear a superior opinion, how you would want to advise when a devotee, supposedly, is envious of the other and is physically making allegations, doing toxic things that normally one who is not a devotee should be doing. And the person who is now a victim, how do you preach to that person? How does it relate? How does it deal with such a situation? Because the philosophy based on this verse is that Krishna is in control of everything. Everything is being arranged by Krishna. So should one say that, okay, this is Krishna's arrangement, this is your karma, so you just tolerate that toxic person? Or should one deal with such a person squarely based on legal and material discipline?
Okay. Thank you very much, Salika. I like to be very practical. Now, our teachings are meant for everyone. But in any country, in any circumstance, we have to recognize the laws of the land. I take, for instance, if someone is chanting and supposedly he committed a crime, if his toxicity amounts to committing a crime, then that is beyond our control. That is me. Beyond my control, I'll call for intervention. And that may result to, person being, called by public officers or law enforcement officer for, okay, for instance, the person comes to create some type of rumor that, such and such happened. And if that is a criminal, there's a criminal element in it, boy, I will not bug my head, I will get the people who have to be responsible for that to deal with it. Because I am not a criminal investigator, and I'm trying not to be a criminal investigator. So if there's a scenario where crime allegations are there, then basically the person has to prove it. Of course, if someone does something funny like that to me, perhaps I would tolerate. I remember several years ago when I was still in Africa, in Lagos, one of my senior girl brothers, he came to me in the office, and then he said some things that were really strange and very criminal, the criminal allegations. But you know what? Sometimes I act like a mad person. And I can just give you the details. This person came to the office, and then he said, you VASUDEVA and such and such. Some devotees are complaining that you people are keeping guests who are drug dealers in your guest house because they're giving you donations. So at that time in Nigeria, drug peddling, drug offenses, they carry, public execution. And here a devotee has to come and make that allegation. So I could just call the law enforcement agents to ask him to prove his case. But I didn't do that because it has to do with me. If it is with me, I'll act based on my guts, my impulse. So because it was with me, if it's somebody else, he made that to, I would call the cops. I'm sorry. I would have called the cops. And so, but when he mentioned that to me, he was accusing me. So then when he mentioned that, I said, such and such, Prabhu, is that all that you know about me? I do worse things than that. I even kill people. You don't know. He was spellbound. He stood there by the door. He did not move for about 4 minutes. And when he left, that was the end of it. He never mentioned anything again. It happened that when he ran into difficulties with the management, at the time I left Nigeria and I visited, he would come to me to tell me stuff and get some advice and all this. So and I did. So bottom line is that and sometimes people think that I'm so bad, but these are some of the things I had faced in Nigeria, and people never heard about it. So the bottom line is that if someone is making some allegations, unfounded allegations, let them understand that that is not something that is spiritual, and if he's serious, you're going to call the cops for him to prove his case. Because if we allow people to just come and pass stool in the temple and go away, the people who are sweeping the temple will be affected. So if we allow people to be abusive towards others in our communities, then we will lose those people who have been abused, the victims will lose faith because they are not being protected. So, and I remember, look, your case still is fresh in my mind. When I was in Lagos, I had a driver, and then the driver inflicted, corporal punishment on you. He slapped you, and then I said, "Oh, look, this is against my rule, You are initiated, but here is a new person coming, and this is what you did to him. Either you do one thing, you allow him to slap you back, or I'll call the police for you."
And that was the last time that devotee slapped any devotee.
So, I mean, I'm just showing you how I deal with criminal cases. So, toxic person, the temple is not meant for toxic people. When toxic people come, they should be rectified. If they're not ready to be rectified, we should help them to grow. Otherwise, if we say we are tolerant, we're going to lose qualitative devotees. Because these people, they want protection. And then someone is coming to taunt them and, do all sort of things, being toxic towards them. And then we just pretend as if we're not seeing, or we just tolerant. Yes, to ourselves, we should be tolerant. But another devotee is being taunted, we should take action. That's how I look at it. And that's how I operate.
Thank you so much. I think maybe probably if I get some time, I'll get in touch with you. Because to be sincere, the case is in question is actually directed towards me. But I've been tolerating, but I kept a lot of people around who saying the situation couldn't tolerate, and they requesting that just get the cops to deal with this guy. But I was looking at it.
That's what you do. That's what you do. If he has evidence, somebody saying, get the cops involved. I'm sorry, I'm not one of your local leaders, dear, but this is my humble opinion. Okay, you can also consult your local leaders, but this is someone is making some criminal allegation. It's going to spoil the fate of so many people. So they should prove the case, and the cops are there. Yeah.
All right, Krishna.
All right.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I think this might be the last question. Kavi Kanapu.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sadi Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, Maharaj, thank you very much, Maharaj. I really appreciate your answer, the lecture. It's a quick one, Maharaj. Because you mentioned something about this your way of preaching, which is very interesting. And like Adishakra Prabhu asked the question about encounter and atheists, because I can see more and more in our environment here in Nigeria. Recently, I bumped into one social media, and I find out that there's some organization of atheists in Nigeria. And there's so many of them, because so many things is going on around here, and it's making people to really lose faith in their religion, And even recently, there is this one pastor, NGO, is the founder of that church. He was caught with drugs when he was about to travel out of Nigeria. And the news is everywhere, and people are seeing this. So he's making more people to become, taking that. And these atheists, they have their own organization also. It's a big movement now. Even in Nigeria, people are following that philosophy. So my own request, Maharaj, is that when are you going to come and start this IFAS kind of institute in Nigeria, so that because I know this kind of preaching you are doing in your management science, management science, is more of a kind of what is by Tita Swami Maharaj is doing in IFAS, bridge preaching. So I don't know, when are you going to start come and register this IFAS in Nigeria, and can come and do some preaching, so that we can capture some people who are really thinking very, they are critical thinkers who don't want to follow the flow, Maharaj. So this is my own kind of a request, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
All right, thank you very much. I've heard you. Your request is noted. We'll deliberate on it.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, please, I will need you. Maharaj, sorry, Maharaj.
Also you, see, you have very good skills, and you have expressed a desire to be able to do similar things. So I sent you, I think I sent you that research publication. I have a number of other publications that relate to the Nigerian scenario on crime, judicial crime, legislative kleptocracy, and all that stuff. So I can send them to you, and you read through, but then you see how these type of situations are normally approached. Because I started doing these things when I just had received a high order from above, and somehow I was just used as an instrument in doing whatever I did. So yeah, the idea of giving you that research publication was for you to see how I do the things, and how eventually it gets published and it becomes authoritative, and you can just hand it to. I remember that publication. One professor, a geologist, is one of your devotees in Nigeria, but he doesn't come to the temple anymore because nobody checks on him. But I've been in touch with him, and you know what he told me when he read it? He said he will make copies of this and present it to the politicians.
Yes,
it's a second initiate. He's a geologist. He has a PhD in geology, and he's been coming to the temple when I was there. Another professor from Ekpoma, that guy, I know him when he was doing his PhD at the University of Ibadan. And also when I said I've been in touch with him because he arranged a big program for us when I came to Nigeria in 2010, 2009 or so. Yeah, it was a big program for us at University of Ekpoma, and a faculty program, and I've been in touch with him. So he got attracted to us based on my publications. And these people, when you catch one person, they are big authorities. And even him, he's been in touch with me. I remember one time he wanted to come to India. I said, "You coming?" He said, I asked him, "What are you coming to India to do?" He said, "I've been reading the books, and I want to go to see the holy places where Krishna enacted his pastime." That's what he told me.
Wow.
So how you can sit there and say preaching in Nigeria is so difficult? Say you don't have the skills and develop the skills. There are so many people there who want to become Krishna conscious.
Yes, right.
And that's applicable everywhere. So there are people like that there. And so the idea, you have a master's now, and you should be a big tool, a big instrument in helping to reach out the elites. Read those publications and see how the things go. If you have some questions, you should ask me, and we can sit down and talk. I know Salif is also interested. He's already doing university preaching programs and all the rest of them. So you can ask me, and we can discuss and put you through in ways on how to be able to create a profile that is based on scientific values to reach out to the people who say we don't believe in God. Okay, so look, this latest publication, somebody will say I don't believe in God. Okay, but here I'm talking about chanting just because I use the word sonic therapeutic intervention. And then you say, oh, this is so good. Tell me more.
And I mean, they're just, it's a terrible thing, you know. It's a terrible thing. They have the PhD, and so they're like, you know, they're like the gurus of the world. And so I go to places, and okay, I have the PhD that you have. You don't have the values I have, and they force themselves to befriend you. Oh yeah, this guy is exceptional. So let's see what we can get from him. That's the whole notion.
Yes, Maharaj.
And so it makes things pretty easy. You should read those works. I'll send some of those other publications, and you have a desire. I told you earlier that first thing is a desire. I was forced into this type of preaching by my guru. He ordered me, and even when I was doing that, the devotees, the authorities were against it.
Yes, Maharaj. I really appreciate Maharaj. I really want to key into this kind of preaching because I want to be more involved in this kind of bridge preaching. But I really appreciate it. So I will want to see more of those links, Maharaj, please.
Okay. And I'll send more published works to you. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Maharaj. I really appreciate Maharaj.
You're welcome. So thank you very much, devotees. I beg to take a leave.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, please give us a minute. Let us complete our daily ritual.
All right.
That is, please, devotees, kindly unmute yourselves, and then we chant Hare Krishna to express our appreciation for Maharaj's presence and his lectures. Jai. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All glories to His grace.
Holiness Bhakti, SWAMI Maharaj.
Jai.